YA died off. YA literally died off. I mean, you hear them, you hear YA books now in mainstream media, the way it used to be. Back then, it was everything. You have it, stupid dystopian YA stories. Today, I want to ask a very important question. What are some things that I think honestly just completely destroy someone's writing? The best thing that I could say is fundamentally, write a story that you would enjoy reading. Write a story that best delivers the goals that you have set out to achieve. As a writer, ask yourself, fundamentally, what do I want to do? Right? It's very simple, but many people don't want to ask that question or do not ask that question. How many people, how many writers will just never ask the question, why am I writing this? And then they just have this assumption, this fuzzy-headed, they think they can basically vibe their way by just writing the most popular stuff. YA died off. YA literally died off. I mean, you hear them, you hear YA books now in mainstream media, the way it used to be. Back then, it was everything. You have it, stupid dystopian YA stories. Exactly, and they were everywhere. These Hunger Games clones or the Twilight clones, they were everywhere. With the romantic, triangles and all the different trends with a dystopian, poorly constructed world it felt that these worlds were just smashed together in an afternoon by the writer, like Divergent. And I'm being honest about it. YA died off. Young adult books died off. They were so popular, it felt like everyone just had to write them in order to sell books. But because everyone just kept writing the same general trend, the same stuff, it died off. So even when you are writing within established cliche, you still have to, I believe, bring something unique to the table, right? What are the hunches, the things that you believe in as a writer? Exactly. And this is also the next thing I want to delve into. The idea, the ludicrous idea that writers don't have to have opinions, writers can be, need to be unbiased is insane. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. You have to have biases. You have to be a human. You have to believe in something. It doesn't even matter if you are, let's say, some sort of a socialist or a communist or even a freaking fascist. You write the story. You write it with what you believe is correct. This idea that writers need to be some sort of an impartial, godlike figure that sort of observes the story from top and depicts all different sides with equal justice. I used to believe this before. If you go back to my channel, you'll find that I used to say that writers need to basically make sure that they depict these stories, these political stories. They need to basically not be biased. But no, you have to put your biases in your story. That's what a story is. If you believe that you are some sort of an impartial God figure that is staring down into your book and into your story and you are disconnected from it, ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Insane idea, because you are going to end up there, whether it's conscious or subconscious. What you believe makes better writing will end up there. What you believe makes for better focus is going to end up there, and what you believe is correct and wrong is going to end up there. You're going to see some of these characters as heroes and you're going to see others as villains, even though someone else might disagree and say, I think the heroes are the villains and the villains are the heroes. This is something that I know because I used to honestly back then believe that I am impartial, that I am some sort of a, like a figure observing from beyond, that I am beyond corruption. No, you are a human. You are the writer. You must put you into the story. Ultimately, that is the main point. People are so obsessed with general audiences or what makes right for the largest possible crowd or what does society think is correct? Dude, you already decided to write fiction, man. You think that do you really think you are within society's confines? No. You are an artist. You're already out of the confines. You are not looking for a cubicle job, are you? No. You decided to do something that you believe you are passionate about, that makes you feel a particular way, a way that you believe is meaningful, a way that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Exactly. And so if you were given the chance in order to write full time, and would you do that? Yes, no. If yes, then you already are outside the confines of society. And especially if you are pursuing that, because many more people would answer the question, of course, I would love to do that. But very few would actually pursue it. But here you are. You pursued this. You went ahead with this. You went forward with this. So you have to decide now, you're going to go back and follow these rules that they have laid out. Come on. It's silly. It is silly. It has to be silly to you. Exactly. You have to decide that you are going to write the story that you want to write, the way you want to write it, the way and with your biases, with your footprint. What makes your book even your book? Don't have this idea that I used to have of this some sort of an impartial God writer that is going to write the perfect story with the perfect depiction of both sides. You certainly want to depict nuance. You certainly want to give the opposite side a good look, yes? But that doesn't mean you can't pick sides in your story. That doesn't mean you can't pick sides in your story. And I will always say that, and I will die saying this exactly. This is something I believe vehemently and very, very strongly. So I think these three basic perspective changes, exactly, are very important, I think. Many writers just miss them because, again, much of what I am speaking about is not really how to write a story. No, it is actually about the perspective with which you write the story. Because I believe that your story should be yours. I believe that your story should have your biases, your perspective. It should depict something that you find meaningful and depict it in a way that you find is appropriate. And only then do I believe it is your book. Only then do I believe that it is your writing. Only then do I believe, and will I believe, that it is your art, your self-expression. Art is ultimately self-expression. So you have to express yourself. People are so shy from actually writing to the extent that they want. I remember back then, few years back, I was watching a documentary about George R. R. Martin, right? And I remember at some point he said, I went to Hollywood and I started writing all these stories and I started following the rules and regulations, and I was so stuck in those and I could never really do what I wanted as a writer. And by 1990, he had decided he had had enough of this. He had had enough of this and he was going to leave and he was going to pursue writing his own story. He was going to have 100 different characters and they are all going to be important characters, and he's going to have 1,000 dragons and all of this epic stuff. And he decided to write a Song of Ice and Fire. He decided to write a Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, my life would not be the same without the Song of Ice and Fire, without Game of Thrones, man. So, and also, fantasy, the entire genre of fantasy would not be the same today without that man's input, without that man's footprint, without George having decided he had had enough, that it was time to throw away this nonsense, this idea that he had to follow all these rules and regulations. Again, you are writing your art. It has to be your self-expression. Trust yourself. Write what you believe. People just don't go for that. I have seen this many times. The greatest moments in most established writers is when they decide that they're going to write their story. Yes. You have authors that are literally writing absurdist fiction, right? For example, Terry Pratchett is a fantastic example. And he is, by the way, Terry Pratchett is as famous. He is as famous as authors come. He is as successful as authors come, okay? And he writes absurdist fiction. The sort of things in his fantasy stories, most modern day fantasy authors wouldn't even dare to have that, because they would think, it's just not, just too much fantasy. They are writing fantasy and they think that too much fantasy is a problem. Come on, man. Yes. So again, I will emphasize it. Write your story, write it your own way, and write it so that it is your art and your self-expression. And trust your gut instinct. I've seen many people say, man, back, before I changed it, That's how I wanted to tell this story. That's how I felt that I should tell it. But I felt scared about that. Don't be scared. You have this. You have got this. You have to write your story. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you took something from this video. I edit stories. If you want me to edit yours, you can contact me. You can also send me a sample of your writing and I'll review it here in the channel. Anyways, have a nice day. Bye-bye.